Welcome to Belief, Being, and Beyond with your host, Granddaughter Crow. Hi, everybody. Granddaughter Crow here with yet another episode of Belief, Being, and Beyond. Remember, I used to do shadow talk with Reverend Stefani Michelle? Guess who's back? I know. It's springtime. But that's the perfect time to do shadow work because then you don't get doubly hit, you know? It's dark and you're doing shadow work. This is kind of doing shadow work in the light. Of course, it's always a good time to do shadow work. We are coming to you today to talk about shadow work and how you can look at it from different belief systems, different points of view. I am more of an earth-based medicine woman, shaman, granddaughter crow, and this is how I do shadow work. And then we're going to talk to Reverend Stefani Michelle, interfaith minister, and see how she looks at shadow work. So without further ado, let's bring on Stefani Michelle.
Thank you, everybody. It's so silly.
I absolutely love it. So, Stephanie, it's been a minute since we've been
Yeah,
on. We kind of met because we both had a shadow book coming out simultaneously. And then
yeah.
we realized that there's a lot more to our dynamic than just two authors that wrote books about shadows. It's really, really fun. And we used to do shadow talk. You guys can find those videos on our YouTube channel, but our Granddaughter Crow YouTube channel. But since that time, it appears that you've really embodied the interfaith minister. I know that when we first met, I was interviewing you on chakras and shadow work. And I'm Granddaughter Crow, and I wrote, shamanism in your shadow. And I said interfaith minister back in the 1900s.
Yeah,
Now you're
true.
embrace yeah, you're I know, right? But you're embracing that title of interfaith minister, Reverend Stefani Michelle. Could you tell us a little bit about that journey and why and what led you to finally embrace this is who I am?
Well, okay, I love that. Yeah, so I have been ordained since 1998, and that was a very important moment in my life. I grew up in a metaphysical world, always had pagan beliefs. My mom, as people may already know, had Tuesday night meditations. And I always felt very connected to Christ. That was one of the people that I felt I channeled. And I found this woman, Catherine Barley, through a trade magazine called Creations Magazine. It was a metaphysical trade magazine or a love and light trade magazine back in the 90s on Long Island. I think it was the entire East Coast. And back then when everything was in print and not on the internet, it was the same as seeing an Instagram post, except it was an ad right there on the back of the magazine, and it said, "Come to Sedona." I was obviously still living in New York. Yeah, and so I was working at a health food store, and I would drive two or three towns over every time I got a paycheck and gave her some money so I could go on this spiritual sojourn to Sedona.
Wow.
And I spent 2 years studying with her. And she channeled Mary. And she wrote a book about her channelings to Mary. And back at the time, we didn't have Audible. So she actually did a voiceover to that book, but it was on CD. Um, so through that journey, we learned a little bit about every religion, and it really kind of solidified how I felt that everybody's saying the same thing. We're just using different languages. And what happened though for me is I only used that title publicly to do weddings, to perform wedding ceremonies, because what's greater than wedding ceremonies? And I was already doing videos. Remember with those big video cameras? I was already doing video for weddings and bar mitzvahs, and so now I'm an interfaith minister. I want to be the master of ceremonies. But I never did anything else with it because it was private and personal and it was for me. And those 2 years with Catherine, transformed me in it was my first metamorphosis, shall we say. I've had many since, but that was definitely my first in my early 20s. And what's happening now with me is now that I'm 50, it almost feels like a coming out party. I'm ready to kind of say, yeah, I actually love the energy of Mary and Christ and everything that I do in my spiritual life and my world. They're part of. They've always been part of. I am not part of a church outside of my connection to them. And as a matter of fact, I'll be starting my own and offering my own services, but it will look different. It will look completely different. It will be Primal Heart Sanctuary. Catherine had, it was called, what was it called? The Sanctuary of Peace and Harmony. Yeah. So, and I say had because Catherine and her twin sister have since passed. But she always stayed part of my life, and now she's part of my master's up in the on the other side. So
I love
it's a beautiful thing. And yeah, I'm just finally here. Here's the thing. If I'm going to talk about embracing yourself and finding the light within you and doing shadow work, then I need to embrace all that is truly me and allow that light to shine on the outside. And so I have decided that that is going to be part of who I am. I want to share another thing. And one of the reasons why I kept it hidden. Mostly, I mean, there have been people throughout my life who I would tell and they knew, and obviously I did wedding ceremonies, but it wasn't something that I was living out loud. And it's really because I thought I had to fit into a box.
it.
And I've never fit into any box, not even in the metaphysical world. You know, when I was teaching at these bookstores, I was still the odd man out, you know, wearing pink when everyone else was wearing black. And now I'm going into the minister world wearing black when everyone else is wearing pink. Like I always I'm always on the opposite end. And I have tattoos and I love to curse. And you know, I've had amazing experiences that have caused pain and suffering for myself and for other people. And so I, you know, thought I had to be this certain type of like on my best behavior person constantly. And I'm never going to be that. I mean, as far as everybody else's terms of what best behavior is. And that's where I couldn't embrace that title because I was still looking at the outside world to create this box. But my best behavior is the fact that I accept you for who you are. And I don't judge you for who you are. There are some people that I may choose not to be around, but that doesn't mean I'm judging you. It means that my energy and your energy doesn't make a good color. It makes some icky colors. And so we're just gonna be on the opposite sides. But once I realized that, I stopped judging myself. You know, if I accept you and that is my love and light, then I have to accept me. And that is my best self. That is me being on my best behavior, even while I'm cursing and doing some random weird shit. Yeah.
I love it. You know, I think you bring up a really good point about embracing your shadow means also equally embracing those parts that you've had hidden that aren't necessarily shameful. They're
Right.
just parts that maybe aren't ready to share or, like you said, have a voice and all of that beauty. So, from that, let's start talking shadow. Um, okay, so we kind of did a little bit with shadow work. We both are coming at it from two different angles, but it's the same thing.
Right, right, right.
So we're going to kind of toss a ball back and forth and help people to understand maybe how it is similar and how we may have little nuances based on our belief system.
Well,
So,
and that was the important thing that I forgot that we were because I get so excited about what I'm talking about. But why we're doing this together today, you know, why it this time and space of global change and transformation are we having this conversation? Because it's not just about personal shadow work anymore. It's about global shadow work. And that was, being able to step into our own light and being able to say, this is who I am as Granddaughter Crow, and this is who I am as Reverend Stephanie. It is coming from two different sides, that separation, that divide that we're living in, that we're seeing play out. And I think at this point everyone has the awareness that it's manipulation, that the divide and the separation has been manipulated and it is intentional. And so we have to, what I believe our intention is here today is showing that it is actually, we're all one. We're all one. We are the same, even in our different titles.
Absolutely. And I totally agree with that. And I love it because it is collective shadow, global shadow work that is very necessary. Speaking, we're here in USA 2026, so you guys got it, right? Shadow work necessary.
Yeah.
So, in general, writing shamanism and your shadow, people ask me, what is the shadow? And I think that's a very legit question because, it's a blanket term, it's a broad term, and how is this person approaching it? So the way I defined it was that, Carl Jung and in psychology and the studies and the shadow self and all of that kind of stuff is something where I kind of started learning about it. And then it turned into like, oh, that's the devil in you, right? Some people are like, oh, don't do shadow work. That's my evil side. That's my evil twin or whatever. And I'm
Right.
like, actually, it's organic from a shamanistic point of view. Everything has a shadow to include the beautiful tree. And so how can you tag on to that or change it or grow it, that definition of shadow and shadow collective work, like within your work, within what you do, just the collective shadow, global
Yeah, I
shadow.
mean, I love that. I don't know if I'm going to say anything different. I think I'm going to say the same thing in different words. But it is, to me, there's a light, there's always light, there's light somewhere, and that light is always casting shadow. And that shadow grows when we refuse to look at it, but it's still there. And the things that we pack into it and hide are still there. And we get weighed down by what's in that shadow if we don't look at it. It's still there. It's still part of us. It's still part of the experience. And in the global contrast of, the personal and then the growing and the expanding globally, there's spotlights being, look it over here, look it. And behind that is this shadow. But everybody's just, let me look at this one because that's what they're spotlighting. That's what they're spotlighting. That's what they're spotlighting. And then in the background, in the shadow, a ton of other things are going on. And I think people are starting to step away and go, hold on, there's lights everywhere. Why am I focused on that one? And hold on, what is happening in the shadow? Because one of the things that I always say to my clients is if you're focusing on the shadow, remember there's also light somewhere. And if you're focusing on the light, remember that there's still a shadow somewhere. And none of it is bad or good.
Right.
All of it is just experience that we're here having. That old cliche in the 80s and 90s where spirits having a human experience. I mean, it's a silly saying, but it's also really true. And we have to zoom out because the more we focus on just this one thing, there are many people completely overwhelmed because they keep changing the spotlight. And we have to zoom out and we have to say, look, there is shadow everywhere, but there is a light also casting that shadow. And whether the light is good or the shadow is good or the light is bad or the shadow is bad, we decide. And the best decision, and I'm going to preach a little bit, and I didn't mean to, but the best decision we can make is connecting
Yeah.
with each other and turning off their spotlights. Because it doesn't matter if we're coming from different sides of the same book, of the same experience. We speak different languages. It's all energy, and we're all saying the same thing because it is energy. We're just got to decode it a little bit.
Mhm.
I could talk forever. I just want to share one more thing, but one of my greatest experiences, and the reason why I'm really embracing the fact that I am Reverend Stephanie, is because throughout my life, I have loved to talk to extremely religious people. I remember when I was teaching, I had a girlfriend who I absolutely adored. I loved her so much. I still do. We just don't talk that often anymore. And she's LDS. And we have different fundamental belief systems, spiritual law, different spiritual law, right? But not really, only on paper. Because once we started talking and once we started dissecting like our language, we truly believe the same thing. Her house just happens to be a little bit more tight than mine. Mine's a little loose. Hers is a little
She
tight.
doesn't have tattoos. Is that what you're telling me? She doesn't
I
have
mean,
tattoos.
she
It's
wouldn't
where
come on camera wearing this, but in her heart, there's no difference between her and I.
Agreed. I agree. It's interesting to me because I was raised by a reverend of the Christian faith, actually two, because they met in seminary school, but that was way back in the day. So, because my mom was female, she didn't get to carry the title, which is another reason why I applaud you because women are reverends too, but that's for, the older generation. The younger ones will be like, "What? Why would that happen?" Good on you for not knowing, right? But the beauty is that I was trained in, and I say trained, you could say indoctrinated, but I say trained because it was a very spiritual upbringing. I walked in spirit. I learned about the nine fruits of the spirit, the nine gifts of the spirit, practicing each one's. My father was preaching on Sundays. Then you have the Sunday night. Then you have the Wednesday. Then you have the prayer meetings and all of that. So literally, I was raised very spiritual. And so, long story short, I ran away from that for a variety of reasons. And then I came into what I would call more of the metaphysical community. And it was so crazy to me, Stephanie, because I was like, oh, you guys are doing the same thing, but you're calling it a trance and channeling. I used to call it
Right.
words of knowledge and prophecy. So there is a lot of things that are lost in translation. And so let's jump in a little bit more to shadow work. And we can talk about this however the shadow spirit moves us. Um, One thing is, you know, shadow work, we can talk about it with personal stories. We can and the awareness, or we can go on a global level and what is it that we're looking at what does global shadow work look like? Which direction do you want to go, Stephanie? Reverend Stephanie.
Oh, which direction do I want to go? I mean, I think what's really important right now is the expansion, the global awareness, but at the same time bringing it to a personal level.
Oh, yeah,
So it's almost like, and this is what I've been saying for the past year, we have to be the who's in Whoville.
to us about that.
Yeah, so we have to on Christmas morning when there's no tree and there's no packages and there's no bows, we still have to get up, go outside and hold hands with everybody in our community. Because that's the energy and that's the love that's going to keep us surviving. It's not about us fighting the Grinch. Let him do his thing. Let him steal everything. Who cares? What's going to affect him is when he turns around and sees that our hearts are still singing and we're still happy and we're still connecting with each other. That's what changes his heart. That's what makes
Oh,
a difference. So it is global, but it starts in the community. And that's one of the things that community change has always said is you have to start at home. And so first you start with yourself. You learn that the love is inside of you. You learn that maybe, yes, you have God, you have spirit, but it's not laws and it's not politics and it's not you better behave or God won't love you. It's no, you're loved. You're loved because you are love. And once you realize that, then you can connect with everyone in your neighborhood. You can start to understand that the person who's bagging really slow at the grocery store is also having a bad day, or the person driving like a freaking idiot is also having a bad day. And you start to kind of just let it go, and it doesn't come home with you because it doesn't matter what all of those environments are and those circumstances are. We're people. We are love. And it's the other thing that I love to say is that, and I read this somewhere. I don't remember where I read it, but there is no 100% of love. And I think I wrote this actually in my book. There, love is ever expansive. It doesn't have a cap. It doesn't go away. I don't love my daughter 50% and my son 50%, and I have to gather up some leftover for my husband. I love them all 100%. And that I can love the next person 100%. It doesn't, there's no ratio, there's no ending, there's no cap.
Yeah,
That's something that I think people have to remember. And then
I
that's the
love that.
ripple effect that will affect globally. So to me, the global change is the personal change, is the community connection.
I
That's,
love that.
they do these mass meditations and it's scientifically proven to make a difference
Yeah.
because we're coming together and we're amplifying energy of love. And that makes a difference.
Yeah, I agree with that. And for me, it sounds like um, one, micro affects the macro, and it needs to be that, and that it needs to shift where we are the ones who go out and connect and everything. And as far as like percentages and everything, it's almost like there is so much in the world that tells us to measure things in a way that can be broken down to a number. The
Right.
the quantity equals the quality. And that is not what it is in love, in emotions, and all of this. It really is this beautiful, it is about the experience. It is about the quality of experience that you have with that person, and it cannot be defined numerically. I absolutely love that. I think it's great because also with the shadow and what's going on in the world, what I'm seeing, and I'm going to hit it in a totally from a totally different angle than I had previously thought I would. I think right now it's easy to segregate, separate, like for example, people who walk two different spiritual, pathways and call themselves two different things. If this consciousness of horror and whatever that's laying over us breaks us apart, where Reverend Stephanie Michelle and I can't talk because she's not shaman and I don't pray to baby Jesus, just I just say it. I just say it.
I love that.
But at the end of the day, if they can separate you and I because of how we talk about what we're talking about, then it's not even they. I'm talking about hatred, I'm talking about power, I'm talking about control, I'm talking about, the Grinch. Not the one Grinch, but the metaphoric Grinch of
Sure.
greed and mine and all of this kind of stuff. Don't share and segregate and separate and let's bomb places. So if we can come together and share that light, then we get to glow more. And the second thing that I want to say, that is the angle that I didn't know I'd be talking about, is if this whatever it is I'm talking about, we'll call it the Grinch, the overarching Grinch, can cause you and I to separate because we use different terminology, but we're headed in the same way. They can also tell us that everybody needs to be ashamed of their shadow.
Mhm.
And the shame and the shadow keeps people silent.
Right.
If you are ashamed of your shadow, you will not talk. And if you don't talk, you don't know each other, and the community once again is lost. So, on that note, what I am saying, not just suggesting, I am saying that shadow work is some of the most brilliant work that one can do because there is so much power, so much light, so much creativity in the things that we were told to hide. So the shadow is something that we may hide or be ashamed of. But in truth, who told us to be ashamed of it? And let's heal the inner child and start coming out a little bit differently. I'm going to put it in another way just to bring it home. There was a time when being left-handed was evil. It was the devil. Devil's working through their left hand. They must be possessed. And so there are a lot of people within Gen X, boomers, silent generation above, that were forced. They were originally left-handed and now they were right. Now they had to learn. In a weird way, what I'm saying is their left-handedness became a part of their shadow, a hidden, shameful part. But wouldn't it be wonderful to do some shadow work, face yourself, look at it, and go, oh gosh, but I'm so horrified that I might be able to walk like that or do this. And then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, but you also get to now do what is organic to you right with your left hand. So I put it in simplistic ways because I know that when we talk about shadow, people automatically have this connotation of the devil, evil, when in truth, I say hidden and it's actually as organic, light, dark. We can judge it. We can say whether it's good or bad. But in truth, it just is. And that is from a shamanistic point of view, the balance between the light and the dark. And guys, we are recording this right around the spring equinox. And so this is the perfect time, right, with the balance of the day and the night to talk about the shadow not as ugly, but to talk about it to help us rebalance. And so there's my little shamanistic message of preaching that I throw down. What do you have to say, or what do you think about that, Stephanie?
I mean, I love that. And I love where you just framed it, how you put it, because the cycle of the earth has longer nights and then longer days, but they still balance each other out within a 365-day calendar. We're still getting the same amount of light and the same amount of darkness, and we need all of that for our literal survival, for the growth
Yes.
of the organisms on this planet. The organic matter needs
Yes.
that ebb and flow, and so do our emotions, so does our biology, so do everything about us being on this planet, being in this avatar is created in duality. Everything is created in duality. And so for us to deny any part of
True.
that duality
Yep.
actually creates toxicity. And it creates toxicity in your body. And that's why you get dis-ease in the body because you're out of balance. You're not embracing something that belongs to you. So
100.
yeah, I mean, I really love how you just framed it, and I do love that we're doing this as the light is, coming back and the fire is coming back and
I,
everything is because it's not just about the dying of the light, it's about the reemerging of the light. It's about
I,
all of it. And in real time, shadow work is saying, I Stephanie was once condemned for being a psychic by a Baptist preacher.
right.
But I, Stephanie, also love people of religion because to me, they're just looking for a way to connect. They're looking for a way to understand what's going on in their heart. They're looking for wholeness. So even though I was condemned because I'm psychic, I'm not going to condemn.
Yes. Clocked it.
Yeah.
Clock it. It's really interesting to me because here is another point of why shadow work is so important right now. And I'm going to go here, guys. AI. Okay. I'm not pro or against AI. I'm just saying it is huge and we need to be educated and aware of it. I do utilize it for some things more as a tool or an assistant, but I also, as an author, hate that people can write books overnight when it took me 2 years. I mean, there's all this discussion, and so that's why I'm like, oh, should we talk about that or not? But here's what I'm gonna say. With the wave of AI on social media, we are getting very, very, very good at seeing if something is real or not, seeing if something is authentic or not. And so, what does that do for us as people who are out there, public figures? We need to make sure we are being and standing in our authenticity, which includes our shadow, comfortably because people are looking. I don't know when it'll happen. I don't know if it'll happen if they're like, that granddaughter crow, she's AI. But see, guys, my fingers are fine. Test. No, but what I'm suggesting is that the world's perception is shifting once again, where the AI, or shall I say, not just AI, I'll just say where because of AI, people are looking for authenticity and they have a bullshit detector like never before. And if you get on a show or are a public figure and you haven't done your shadow work, you're going to get checked. What do you think about that? Because I just went there.
I love it. I love it. And that's the point of who I am.
Yes.
And that's the point of what we teach is there's a shadow, a darkness, a bad side, whatever, to everything, but there's also a good side. And the fact that people, myself included, are going, that's AI, that's AI, that's AI. You know what it's forcing us to do?
What?
Show up in the real world.
Yes, it is.
And stop, this is going to become our newspaper. Where do I want to go to the next event? What's on the back of the magazine? Is it that spiritual sojourn going to Sedona? Awesome. Let me buy tickets and I'm going. Now I'm going to connect to people. So there's a shadow and there's a light because the AI is going to be able to do all the things we don't want to freaking do.
Right,
And
right,
what
right.
it's going to allow us to do is get off and show up and show up in real
Oh,
time. you know, Social media is not going away, but what it's doing, I am part of this group on Facebook and I started going to these events. I posted it on this group. A girl in Illinois says, I want to go. I said, great. The next one in April is in Vegas. She said, I'm coming. So now we're going to meet in real space, in real time. To me, that's what the advancement of tech, that's the light of the advancement of technology. There's always going to be something that creation and destruction are the same thing.
yes, they are. They're
And
just 2 points of the process.
exactly. And so that to me is where people have to open up and go, okay, if I see this dark thing, where is the light? Because there's always something light that is creating that shadow.
Yes,
And doing the shadow work means finding the light,
yes,
getting out from the shadow. Stop hiding and find that light.
yes. You brought up a really good point. In person and showing up real community. So, Stephanie, how can we do that with you? What do you have going on? We can talk about shadow stuff, but that was such a segue. How do we when is this conference? No, I'm just kidding. How do we connect? What are you up to? Because you have such a dynamic perspective of being able to go, yes, I pray to baby Jesus, but I also, have a tattoo and say, bad words or whatever, those old like little things you busted through that box and you're like, I'm showing up authentically. So what else are you doing authentically? Because I want to hear you got stuff going on.
Well, and this is perfect because when we talked a couple months ago, whenever it was, and we decided we were going to create this experience, I didn't actually have this going on yet.
Oh.
So it's perfect that we're recording it today because I am going to do live events. So I'm going to do some workshops on Zoom. And you can show up. They'll be posted on my social media, I think, next week. But I'm also going to be doing monthly healing events in Phoenix. And what a great place. I mean, Phoenix is a resort city, a resort town. We got Sedona, we got Scottsdale. Come and spend the weekend. I'll show you around. But I am going to be doing monthly healing events that will incorporate. I'm a yoga teacher and I've been a Reiki master for 30 years, and I'm going to be breathwork certified. So these healing events will be a couple of hours long that will be me guiding you through yoga, Reiki, and breathwork. And they're going to be so beautiful, and I'm so excited about them. So you can actually show up. I will be hosting my own events and you can be part of them. And I'll help you find the Airbnb or tell you the best resort because there's so many to stay at and just have your own mini vacation. And maybe you book a session outside of the healing with me, but I am throwing events and they're going to be big and beautiful. And there will be one at the end of the year that is almost like a rave event. I'm gonna have a DJ, and so that one's like in the work, but it's gonna be like a healing space. And of course, it's a daytime party because I like daytime events. But my website will have all of this stuff. I am also in the works of a second book that will be released at the end of the year, which will coincide with this big event that I'm throwing. But yeah, so there's things you can come see me. Primal Heart Healing. And if you can't make it to Phoenix, there are also going to be live Zoom events where I'll have all those little squares that I'll be talking to and hosting these events and connecting with people. So that's the beauty of it is I can do it online and in person.
I love it. So www.primalhearthealing.com, social media at Primal Heart Healing. Look, I didn't even have to check my notes. I know you. I follow you, girl. I follow you. I
Right.
follow
So
you.
now, so tell us about your big news.
Oh, do I have big news? No, it's really kind of beautiful, Stephanie, because you talked about your journey in being able to step in and own the title. And it didn't mean that you resisted the title. It meant that it was sacred within. And that is the same thing with me with the title of shaman. I will write books and do all of this. There are different thoughts around you can say you're a shamanic practitioner, you cannot say that you are a shaman. There's a lot of things just like in your realm.
Right.
Interfaith. Maybe I should be an interfaith shaman. Maybe that solves something. No, just I just played.
Only solving is within your own
Yeah.
body.
Yeah. So the beauty is that I have no problem. I am a medicine woman. I come from a long line of medicine people in the Navajo Nation. My Aunt Alice, High Priestess of the Peyote Way, my grandfather, Shaman, which is why I'm Granddaughter Crow, but they didn't call them shamans, see? They called them singers and or peyote or prayer person. And so this term was something that I've been kind of like, well, yeah, I write shamanistic books and I'm a medicine person and I'm Navajo, but what of this term? So this year I'm just like, you know what? It's not about me anymore. It's about telling people what it is in a clear way, what I offer. So, Shamanism with Granddaughter Crow, online classes. We are going to be reviewing four of my books that I talk directly about shamanism in. First one is Shamanism in Your Shadow. It's a 6 week course where it's not necessarily a course. It's more like what you're talking about, like this community. I'm going to be welcoming you into the lodge, Ya'at and we're going to sit in circle with each other. And we are going every Sunday, we are going to be walking through online on Zoom, walking through one of my books. The first one is A Shamanism and Your Shadow with Granddaughter Crow. New book coming out. New book coming out May 5th. Hochon. I'll just go ahead and hold it up because people don't understand what I'm saying. It is a, it is a Navajo word and it means balance, harmony. And so I'm going to be walking people through that after it releases. My Wisdom of the Natural World, which, I'm going to be walking people that through that. And I guess I can speak about it now. Shamanism for Beginners, released January 2027. You heard it here first by Llewellyn Worldwide, written by Granddaughter Crow. So I'm really doing this whole thing where it's shamanism with Granddaughter Crow. You can find me Instagram, Shamanism GDC. And then check out my website because we've got a lot of fun stuff going on. And I like to do three things. I always have three different things that I focus on. One-on-one sessions, and then my podcast because I love bringing great people to great people and talking about so much fun stuff. And then I was an author for a few years, hence the books. And now I feel like being a teacher once again. And so I'm going to be teaching these books over the next year and beyond. Feel free to check out my website, www.granddaughtercrow.com. Follow me, social media at Granddaughter Crow. And then shamanism, GDC, Instagram. We actually have so much fun going on. I have helpers that are stepping up, and I've got discount codes for people who are going to take the class and want to get the book. I am accessible and I'm really, really thankful because I remember talking with you last year when you're like, we're in the year of the snake and oh, we've got so much shedding to do. And now look at you and I. Oh, we're in the year of the horse and she's a reverend and I'm a shaman. It's
Yeah.
just this. It's like, oh, we were doing our work. Is that what we were doing, Stephanie? I don't know.
That's
What do
what
you
we're doing.
what do you think about all of that? Because
I mean, I think that last year was exhausting and exhilarating all at the same time because there was not a day for me that I was capable of denying the mirror. I was forced to look at it literally from January to January or February to February. Um, but it was jam-packed with rising, shedding, and releasing resistance that has been there for a long time. And because I did that, I can confidently say that I am anchored in to the version of me that I always saw.
yes,
I, thought I'll never get to that version of me. That version of me only exists in my mind. It's the version of me I will forever be chasing, forever be molding. But that version of me is here today. And it is
yes,
living and it is growing and it is embracing. And I have finally anchored in to every single part of who I am. in in confidence, not in conflict.
I love that. It's it, you earn the medicine that you carry. You earn the wisdom that you have. People, you don't even you have we have it in our auraic field, and the beauty around, what you and I do is that we do the work. We do the work, people. We do the work. And if you want to do one-on-one work or group work with either Reverend Stephanie or Granddaughter Crow, feel free because we also will be very, very understanding about what you're going through. We didn't like go get a certificate and we're like, yeah, here we are, you know. It's more or less like we have been this version of ourselves since birth, and now we finally found what that version looks like, and it has this label that's Reverend Stuff, you know, and Granddaughter Crow, medicine woman, aka shaman. And if
Well,
you want to go, if you want to do that too, you guys, primalhearthealing.com, granddaughtercrow.com.
yeah. I just want to say we did the certificates and the training. We did all of
We
that.
did that too.
We gained the knowledge, we gained the wisdom, and that wasn't what shifted us.
Oh,
It was doing the shadow work. It was looking in the mirror. It was the integration and the embodiment of our core and our light and our energy that shifted us.
I think you just hit the ball out of the park there, Stephanie. Yeah, that settled it.
That settled it.
If you're experiencing shadow work, or whatever it is, or just wanting to step into the next version of you, or, it's kind of interesting because it is a homecoming. It is
Yeah.
a homecoming. Stephanie, I am always happy to have you on Belief, Being, and Beyond, because what we believe in constitutes how we behave in the world, but there's always something beyond, there's always something more. Never let labels or different languages cause you to separate. Come to the table, have these conversations. If you guys, as listeners, are like, "Ooh, I'd like to pitch something to Stephanie, or see what the Stephanie as the Reverend Interfaith Minister and Granddaughter Crow have to say," put it in the comments. We'll see what we can do. Otherwise, any final things? I mean, after you hit the ball out of the park, do you any final things, Stephanie?
No, I love having these conversations with you. So I thank you. I'm so grateful that we found each other. And I'll be back.
I'll be back. You heard it here. So, anyway, love you guys. Thank you once again for tuning in to another episode of Belief Being and Beyond. I love bringing great people to great people and expanding the minds of the listeners because there is always something more. Please do all the things. Support the channel. Subscribe. I get a lot of people who watch, but they haven't hit the subscription button. It really helps me with the algorithm, the shadow algorithm. I'm fighting the shadow. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
Cut
come into the light.
to the light. Bring me into the light, people. Anyway, I love you guys. We will see you on the flippity flip.